Grant Morgan has a hilarious question, and I hope that you don't quit the podcast forever when I finish asking it. If you absolutely had to pick one, would you rather work for Tony Khan or Vince Russo? Gotta pick one, Eric.
It's not as hard to answer as you may think. It's just the why of it. And I'm actually trying to find a way to answer this honestly without sounding angry and like I'm picking on one person or the other. Based on what I've seen and experienced thus far, I think working with Russo would have a higher degree of success, or at least potential for success, than working with Tony.
And is that based on Russo valuing story more than matches? Or
it's just based on perspective. I think there's something, and again, I don't know this as a fact, so I really want to be careful that I don't turn into a Dave Meltzer type and state things as fact that I don't really know as a fact. I have a feeling based on what I see in the patterns that I'm able to pick up on, because I'm really fucking good at picking up on patterns, which is why my prediction rate for the things that I predict are as incredibly high as they are. It's like I'm a fucking walking, talking crystal ball. But Russo at least has a fundamental understanding of story and structure and the significance of it. It would be a challenge. I can say that firsthand, but I think it can be done. It could be done. My impression, based on the patterns that I've seen, is that there's no working with Tony Khan. Tony has one way of doing things. He sees one thing in his head at any given moment, and that's what's going to happen, regardless of any of the reasons why something else should be considered. So if I'm going to pick one or the other, I'm going to pick the one that at least has some potential of success versus one that I know is kind of like driving a car off a cliff.
Driving a car off a cliff.
Did you see recently, it was posted, I'm not even going to post it because I don't want to come off like a hater, because I know people think I am, but somebody came up with a really cool graphic that showed like the collision, and what's the other name of the show they do?
Dynamite.
The Dynamite collision ratings that look like a fucking ski slope. It's a downhill, like Olympic level, like where you do 140 miles an hour when you get to the bottom, and had a little picture of Tony Khan on skis sliding down the quarter-hour breakdown of his show. Yeah.
And if you're going to describe the graphic, at least mentioned in the background, there was a sign posted like it's on a mountain, and it says Meltzer star ratings this way. The idea being he's been chasing the Meltzer model, and that is the reason he hasn't been successful.
Well, thank you for that. I didn't even notice it. I'll have to go back and look at it. Unless Super Dave has it, we can pull it up. I'd love to see it, Super Dave.
Come on. It was posted by Dave Scherer from PW Insider, who I know is a friend of yours, and certainly we all think the world of Mike Johnson. But yeah, I think Dave Scherer has a Dave Meltzer beef going these days. Ryan Beecher says, can Eric at least list 3 things he thinks AEW does really well? And please really give it a genuine try here, Eric. Don't just be an asshole if you can, just for a minute. Are there 3 things? Come on now.
See, your question and your statement that came with the question is almost like it's like all I care about is being an asshole.
I know that's not true, but I know that it doesn't take much for you to get tuned up over there.
3 things they do well.
They took care of Sting.
That's a one-off. It's not what they do well. It's what they did well once. What they do well, there's certain aspects of their production that I like, certain aspects of it, because it just feels gritty and raw. So That's one. And I've talked about that since day one. Never been shy about acknowledging it. It's subjective, but it's my opinion. So there you go. Number two, there is no number two and there is no number three. There's nothing I can say. I'm not going to make shit up. I'm not going to try to be fair and balanced because I just don't feel that way. Their production of their product is so poor that I just, there's no there. Production quality, there's aspects of it I really dig. Everything else I think is.
They have a good roster.
So what? You don't know what to do with it. That's like having $5 million in the bank and not knowing how to spend it. What the fuck good does it do you?
They have great matches.
I don't think, I look, there are some matches. They have a lot of shitty matches too, by the way. I've seen some fucking indie-rific stuff that wouldn't even be indie-rific on the indie scene on that show. AEW botches, go check it out if you don't believe me. It's fairly consistent. Some of the worst wrestling I've seen in national primetime on cable is in AEW. And conversely, they have some of the, technically speaking, most fascinating wrestling. But it doesn't matter. That's just like, yeah, but my cake tasted like shit, but I used the best butter on the market. It doesn't matter. Great. You use some of the greatest butter you could find, made by special cows, bred in Japan, like Wagyu beef, only for dairy product. And yeah, you used great butter, but your cake tasted like shit. So what do you think about them as a baker? It's the same thing. Yes, they have some matches that are really exceptional in terms of their technical abilities, but in the overall, I cannot consider their match presentation as something that I think they do well. I think for the most part, it sucks. No sense whatsoever for story or characters, despite what AEW fans think is a story. It's not a story. It's an excuse for a match. Two different things. No, too much blood, too much hardcore shit, too much characters. Too many of the characters look too much the same. Just, no, that's not it. Production, that's it. As far as I go, I'm not going to make shit up.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.